Welcome, everyone. I am Chris Gore. This is the Film Threat Livecast on a Friday. Today on the show, we're reviewing a lot of movies. Let's go. Lisa Frankenstein opens today, plus Out of Darkness, The Private Eye, starring comedian Matt Rife, Marmalade, along with Float and Molli and Max in the future. Plus, we're going to have the director of Molli and Max in the future on the show today. We'll be talking to him, and the director of Adam the First, Irving Franco, and actor David Duchovny will also be on the show. Get your questions ready about the film Adam the First. There may even be a question about the X-Files. We shall see. Plus, Adam is here. Alan is here. Alan is here, waiting in the wings. Let's go, Alan. Where are you? I'm going to find him. He's right. Stop obsessing about race, you stupid, midget-minded morons. That was definitely not like... crazies and guns! People trying to kill me!
He's losing his mind. And I'm reaping all the benefits.
Alan.
Hey, man.
Yeah, you had your John Campea moment there. Huh?
What are you talking about? Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God. How's it going?
Good. I think you should do less live streams, or at least spread them out during the week.
Oh my God.
One day.
This week I did Midnight's Edge in the morning on Monday. I did the Nooner on Wednesday. I did Drinker yesterday for 3 hours. Don't worry, I only talked for 20 minutes of those 3 hours. And then I was on Project Egg Roll.
I appreciate you doing my son's podcast there.
Oh my God. I don't invite me on your show. I'm doing too many shows. I'm tired of me. Okay. I'm tired of me. I don't know if you're tired of me. You know who's tired of me? Me. So I'm gonna do the normal live streams. I'll do the ones I've committed to, but I can't do any more shows. Hey, we have so much stuff to talk about. We really don't have time to mess around. So let's get right to Jake Martin has become a YouTube member. MK Solid 82. Out of Darkness equals Stone Age diversity. We're going to talk about it. Alan Horkin says, interview with English literature graduate David Duchovny should be very interesting. Have some good questions, folks.
You have some good questions, or you want...
I want other people to come up with good questions so I don't have to. Film Facet says, love Film Thread is going after the wokies in the writer's room. It's past due this gets exposed. Oh, we have something. We might have to go longer today. I have something that I just got, and I think we're going to have to go over it, but we'll have to do it after the interviews. So this show may go slightly longer today. I'm going to save a news item that is literally breaking news for us, because we need a video about it, because people need to know about it.
Yeah. Also, we need to end at 12:30. 11:30 at the latest. So
11:30. Okay,
that's how far I've got. Yeah.
And David Duchovny, Evolution was underrated.
Yes, Evolution is amazing.
Heinlein says someone had his coffee. I have two cups of. I made 2 cups of coffee. They're sitting right here. I've had a sip. One sip. I am pre-coffee, but let's go because we have way too much to discuss today. So we're gonna jump right into it. Wait, where is this? Where is this thing? Alan, we gotta be smart. Not like everybody says.
Okay.
What was that?
I have no idea.
What was that? All right, we're gonna kick it off. We're gonna kick it off with, why is that just hide current comment? Okay.
Okay.
All right, we're gonna kick it off, folks. We just have a lot. We have like 6 movies we have to review in an hour, 2 interviews, and a news item. Let's go. Strap in. It's gonna be a bumpy ride for probably Alan, but not me. All right, Alan, tell me about Float. It's the one film
yes.
that I have not seen out of the list of movies we're reviewing.
Okay, Float is, I believe, in limited release in theaters. I want to say it's Lionsgate. But Float is a romantic drama. Stars Robbie Amell and Andrea Bang from Kim's Convenience. And story is basically Andrea plays Waverly, who is a doctor who's about to do her residency in Toronto. And she's kind of wigging out. She's she's basically doing the doctor thing for her parents, and her brain is kind of fritzing out there, and she needs a break. And so she heads over to Vancouver to be with her aunt Rachel, played by Michelle Krusiek, and she decides to spend the summer there at the lake and just kind of get her head, while at the same time tricking her parents into thinking she's in Toronto. And while at the lake, she had a traumatic water incident in her youth. And the young, strapping, handsome Blake, played by Robbie Amell, offers to give her swim lessons, and a romance starts to bud. And but he's a lifeguard, and she's going to be a doctor, and she has, of course, Asian parents who are very demanding, and so she has to juggle all these things. It's a romance, pretty straightforward, pretty standard. I had fun with it. I don't know that it would basically be these Harlequin novels you read and then put on the shelf. That's kind of what Float is. It's a nice little romance. I watched it, and now it's just gonna kind of go up on the shelf with all the other romances I had. So there's nothing really bad about it. It's Asians. So
exactly. Like, you're all about, like, there are no Asians in this movie. Well, this is you're all good.
And I'll say this about Asian movies. It's not about race. It's just a story about Asians, and no one gets called out. No, there's the black friend, there's the white love romance. It just happens. No one calls it out. No one's saying, hey, but you're white in this, or hey, you're this and that. It's just a straightforward story, and that's kind of like what we need our diverse stories to be. Just a human story, and not have race brought into it, just to say that we're virtuous and good. So yeah, there is enough Asian representation in this movie. Thanks, Shuxy. So yeah, I would give it a 6.5.
6.5 out of 10. So do you recommend? So that's kind of a mild recommendation.
Yeah, if a romance is your thing and you want to see one this weekend, this is a perfectly good one.
All right, cool. Well, that was great.
Yes.
Moving on.
Tight and fast.
There you go. I know people are waiting for us to talk about Lisa Frankenstein, but I want to save it for later.
Yes. Oh boy.
What are you talking about?
I saw the 10:30 showing last night.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
We'll get into it.
Yeah. I'll just say there's nothing like walking out of your theater and no one is there. Not even the workers.
Literally, no one was there?
Not even the workers. In fact, I think I saw one leave the theater as I was heading to the lobby. It's pretty eerie.
Well, let's talk about something positive. A movie you and I have both seen, which I happen to know that you like, because you reviewed this film which played the South by Southwest Film Festival, which is Molli and Max in the Future.
Yeah, I wrote a good synopsis for this if you want me to read it.
Sure. I want to hear your synopsis, and then I'm going to tell you what the story is.
Okay, I'll just read it from the review, which got a 9 out of 10 from me. Let me just blow this up a little bit. Okay, so as the title implies, our heroes Molli, played by Zosia Mamet, and Max, played by Aristotle Atharius. Yeah. While traveling along a hyperspace bypass, Molly's space car runs Max off the road. After haggling over fault, Max insists Molly take him home to the ocean world. As we discover, Max is half human and half fish. Molly herself is endowed with magic. Soon the two hit it off, but before they are given a chance to become more than friends, Molly leaves to join a space cult and have sex with the demigod Mobius. Max is left devastated and alone.
Okay, well that's kind of how it begins.
Yeah.
This movie shows you what you can do. It's effectively, I mean, Zosha and Aristotle are the leads in this film. It's like
It's a two-hander. This is a two-hander.
This is, yeah, for the most part. I mean, there are little bit parts here and there. So there are a lot, other actors in there that make appearances, but the focus is on them. It is a romance. It is a will they or won't they? And they kind of like, it's sort of like there's definitely chemistry between the two characters, the two leads, Molly and Max, but they never quite get together. It is so clever. This film, it's about the writing and the performances, really. I mean, I happen to know that they shot part of this movie in the volume, but it's a very low budget indie movie.
Yeah.
I mean, you can tell by the way the special effects are more comical. Like when she's having sex with the demigod, it's like a giant appendage that is being, stimulated
Into places. Yes.
Yes. It's just weird. And I would describe this movie as Annie Hall meets Red Dwarf. If you even know, Annie Hall, Woody Allen movie, a very sweet, funny romance. And then, of course, Red Dwarf is one of the weirdest sci-fi sitcoms, British sitcoms ever. If you've ever seen it, it's just bizarre, over the top. And that's what's so amazing about this movie. It's the matter-of-fact way that they talk about certain things. Like, at one point, you see that, like, Molly and Max are like, should we embark on a romance? Should we get together? And they use a thing called a poop phone, which is a parallel universe phone, thus the term poop phone. So they get on the poop phone to talk to a different version of themselves in a parallel universe. And they ask the other version of themselves, Molly and Max, like, well, see, we want to see if we would get along. Why don't you guys actually get in a relationship? We'll call you a couple weeks later. Tell us how it's going. So they do that. It is so bizarre because everything in this world is just taken matter-of-factly. There's a funny thing where Max's character, he builds robots to fight in a giant, like, robot, giant, like, Transformers robot fighting arena. It's like MMA with robots, and it's all done with stop motion. This movie is so creative, so clever, so just uses, like, what's available. Like, okay, I guess we can have, like, we're in the volume, and the volume is sort of like when they're looking over the city. That's sort of the backdrop. They fly in spaceships, but everything is like nothing. It's like going to work. So they don't really call out any of the sci-fi elements of the story. It's just like, well, I'm going to go to this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to the parallel universe. I'm doing this thing. I just built a robot, but it's like, it's just like throwaway, like nothing. I really love this. I love this film. It's 90 minutes. There's a thing at the end, so stay through the credits, where they kind of show a little like BTS. So you see a little behind the scenes of like them doing stuff in front of green screen, and they have like some bloopers in there. I really, really, really enjoyed this. Yeah, 9 out of 10 for me. Like, just know that this is a low budget indie movie. This isn't Star Wars. It's not like a big sci-fi epic. It is primarily a romantic comedy against a backdrop of a ridiculous sci-fi universe. And I can't rave enough about it. I can't wait. In fact, I can't wait to talk to the director because I want to find out about this. What any other thoughts on it? Like what's your takeaway?
Yeah, I mean, this is an example of a movie that you won't feel seen in.
Right.
These two characters are so out there, but it's that relationship. It's that will they, won't they relationship that we can all relate to. And at the heart of it is this truly well thought out, well developed love story.
Right.
And placed in this really out there, over the top world. And a lot of times when filmmakers do these over the top worlds, these fantasy worlds, we get taken out of it because it's just so weird that we just can't relate to it.
Right.
And what the director, I can't remember his name. This tab would fork. What Michael does.
Michael Lukk Litwak.
Yeah, what Michael does is he he ensures that the heart of the story is intact, while then balancing it off with this really weird world. And that's why, I love the fact that I wasn't taken out of the picture, and that I was kind of invested in these two characters, especially that Aristotle character,
Right.
The Max character.
Right.
And
Max.
so it's just a well-made indie film, indie romance, great storytelling, and innovative use of technology that is now available to indie filmmakers.
Yeah, I really just had so much fun with it. And the fact that it just everything, this is why I compare it to the Red Dwarf, see Red Dwarf, British sci-fi sitcom that is just bizarre, but everything about their sci-fi world, everything that happens is just matter of fact. Like, oh yeah, I build robots. Like, oh, okay. Like it's almost like, it's not that it's boring, but like, it's just not called attention to, like the poop phone. Like, oh, we should use the poop phone, the parallel universe phone. It literally says on it, poop phone, PU phone, right? And it's just like, oh, this is something we can do. Let's see if we actually would get along if we were in a relationship. Our parallel universe versions of us will have the relationship just to see if anything could go wrong. It's just, I really, really enjoyed it. And I can't wait to talk to Michael about it. Strong recommendation. I believe it is out on video on demand.
I think it's in theater. It's in theaters, actually.
Theaters in limited release, and then coming to on demand. But you know what? We'll ask the director when he gets here.
Yeah, I will say, if you're in Southern California, it is playing in LA and Orange County, and I believe it's in New York as well.
Well, there you go. Wow, that's strong recommendation from both of us. That's not always the case.
Yeah, I mean, one thing about the volume that's done here is, the reason you use the volume is because you can create a world, and then shoot it from any angle without having to, redraw the background. The volume allows you to, to have a moving camera and a moving world in the background, almost multiplane, I would say.
Let's go to your chat comments and questions right here. Mormaga says, I don't see the trailer on Film Threat trailers. It might be queued, but there is a trailer. I don't think the trailer is that great. It's just okay. It doesn't give you a sense of the tone. That is the thing that really worked for me, was the tone of the film. Caleb, I see your super chat. I'm going to save it for when David Duchovny's here. So if there are any David Duchovny related questions or questions for our guests, our interview guests that are going to be on later in the show, I'm saving them. I see them though. The Nerd Far Away. I know I'm stodgy. Sex scenes are a bit of a turnoff for me. Leave that to our imaginations, I say. So there's no sex scenes in Molli and Max.
There's nothing explicit at all.
There's nothing explicit. I think there's kissing, but that's it. Like it's not.
The sex is a joke, basically.
The sex is a joke, right? It's not like there's no serious. Thank you, Nerd Far Away. Hey, Womp Biscuit says low budget sci-fi always gets my interest, despite this being a rom-com. Well, I would just say it's a rom-com first. The sci-fi world is in the background, but it's so well handled because it's so ridiculous and over the top. That's why the only thing I can think to compare this to is Red Dwarf. That's it. So I always get will they, won't they with reading my chat comments. CD Stein 69 says, sounds like it used the volume in the way it was intended instead of the way Lucasfilm and Marvel have been using it. Yeah, they do. They use it in a very clever way. And it's not front and center. The special effects are not front and center with this. Even though I really love the sort of stop motion robot fighting, it was funny. It's funny because it's not like they could have gone more serious and they didn't. And it totally works.
It's very game. And then, like I said, I think the volume will benefit indie filmmakers more than it will the big studios. Cause you just know, for indie filmmakers, if you need to do a scene in Paris, you can actually rent backgrounds and then do your scene in Paris.
Hang on.
Yeah. Also, you can, those scenes in Cars, where, you can use the volume in Cars. And I know for a fact that there are volume studios out there with Cars, and you can license backgrounds for a very cheap price. So you can drive through whatever city that that they have available in their library.
Silver says, your description is so funny and intriguing. I'm going to check it out. Sounds like a great movie. Chris, we're getting married today. Oh, I know who that is, says Gina Kalani. Gina, Shane, my friends from Atlanta, my friends I hang out with at Dragon Con. Congratulations. They're getting married today. It's just the legal part of it. So something to do with getting cheaper insurance. I have no idea. I know. But congratulations to you, Shane and Gina. May your first child be a masculine child. I don't know if they'll have kids. They have cats. But congrats to my friends in Atlanta, Gina and Shane. They're probably not even watching this now. So there you go. She just dropped that and that was it. But congrats to both of you. And I'll see you in September. Nicholas Vargo says, sorry to say, but I'm more tired of John Campea than I ever will be of you, Chris. And yes, Evolution is very underrated. Love that movie. And ask David about Californication, his experience on Californication.
Yeah, save that one.
Pilgrimania. I'll save that one for 2. We'll save it. All right. It's out of the gate, a positive recommend.
Yes, a 9 out of 10.
Annoying. All right. Let's get one more review in before we move on. Let's see. Hang on, folks. I'm a little out of it today. I'm not going to lie. Wait, here we go.
Is that the one? Okay.
You have not seen this movie.
Nope.
The Private Eye is a film starring Matt Rife, which is the only reason this movie might interest you. Matt
you mean
Rife,
internet sensation and stand-up comedian Matt Rife?
Yes, this movie was made, The Private Eye was made over the pandemic. It kind of shows it's limited in its budget. And he's sort of in his brain, he's like this great detective. So you hear like a voiceover of like, a detective, like all the cliches of like an old film noir. He gets involved with a married woman, unbeknownst to him, played by Claire Grant. And it's this movie. I feel like they were making this movie and they had no script, but they had Matt Rife. So it's like, all right, let's just make a film. Now, if this was clever and funny and 90 minutes, this could have passed. As it is, it's nearly 2 hours, an hour, 55 minutes. The story is incredibly loose, and it's sort of filled with all those Private Eye film noir cliches, but the movie thinks it's being clever and mocking them. It's not really doing any of that. The worst part about The Private Eye is I was completely bored. It also has like a lot of voiceover and then actually an appearance by what am I spacing on the actor's name here? Eric Roberts, which is like, I feel like he was completely wasted in this. Look, I've been hearing about Matt Rife. I've watched some of the clips. People are saying he's an offensive comedian. None of what he's saying is particularly offensive to me. I think it's just sort of low hanging fruit. So you could accuse him of maybe making cheap jokes, but I don't think they're offensive. I do like the fact that Matt Rife makes fun of the people who try to come after him. Good on him for doing that. But ultimately, this is the only reason you might have any interest in seeing The Private Eye is because Matt Rife is in it. And that's it. It's dull. And look, I was ready for it. Film noir, sign me up. A movie called The Private Eye, quite simply, sign me up. But it's really the script and the direction and the editing that I what are some other,
just a bad movie.
Cinematography,
bad movie.
The PA on this movie. No, it just I wanted to like it, but it really comes down to the weakest element of the entire thing is the script. Just aimless and scenes kind of sit there. It's like chewing the scenery. If he's trying to actually mimic like the boring parts of like some old film noir, that's I mean, he achieved it. But I was ultimately, and this movie opens in limited release in theaters and on VOD. I can't. And this is the thing, just so people, anyone that might accuse Film Thread of you love every indie film, I think we give indie films fair reviews.
Mhm.
You just gave like a 6.5 to Float. If I had to rate this, I'm sorry, it's a 4 out of 10. Just because something is indie doesn't make it great. But I do think, what indie films can do is take a lot of risks. And, it is something of a risk to make this film, it was, considering the circumstances, because I talked to a friend of mine who worked on it. And I was asking him like, he's like, have you seen it? It's like, yeah. Did not like it, but he explained to me that, it was made during the pandemic. They kind of used what they had. It is what it is, but I cannot recommend The Private Eye. It's a 4 out of 10 for me. If you are a super fan of Matt Rife, go see it. If you like good movies, don't go see it. And we'll leave it there.
Yeah.
Let's look at your comments on this here. Gonna go, Josh L sends in a super sticker. Thank you, Josh L. Sons and Shadows gifted 1 Film Threat membership. And Wes Ray says, I really like The Private Eyes, Don Knotts and Tim Conway, murder mystery comedy from the 80s. Fair. Hey, it's me in HD. Hail Film Thread. I just want to say your shows always put a smile on my face. Yesterday, I was humiliated at my job by my boss, but knowing I can count on Film Threat and FNT is what makes me happy. Well, hey, it's me in HD. Fuck your boss. Your boss, shove it up your boss's bum. Screw your boss.
Yeah, literally, fuck your boss.
There you go. Yeah, hey, it's me at HD. Always appreciate your thoughtful comments and your membership.
Well, I was basically, sorry to hear that.
Sorry to hear your bosses.
Yeah, I think we've all been there.
Yeah, it's happened.
Yeah.
Cavatino
on it too long.
Cavatino, Cavalryman, Shay. Does The Private Eye embody a Hall & Oates song? Not that I could tell. I feel like it was trying to go for like trying to go for being like a little tribute to the old school, film noir films from the 40s. But yeah,
But I mean, part of that is you have to get a sense that they love the old film noir films of the old, and it sounds like they're just going for the style as opposed to like an homage to a genre.
Yeah, well, there you go. Anyways, it is what it is. A non-recommendation from me. Now I feel like we're far enough in the show. We got almost 500 people watching live. Smash that like button. Subscribe to the channel. And there you go. We are going to be doing a thing now where I just need to let you all know that you can only post comments during live streams if you are a subscriber. So if you're in the chat or you're like watching the show and you have not subscribed to the show, please subscribe to Film Threat. Subscribe to our channel. That's the only way you'll be able to actually comment during a live stream. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and it's free.
Yeah, it's free. So there you go. All right, Alan, it's time. Finally, a movie you and I have both seen.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's on the thumbnail. Lisa Frankenstein. Let's talk about Lisa Frankenstein. Lisa's mother was tragically murdered at the very beginning of this movie. Now, I don't know if I consider anything that happens within the first 30 minutes a spoiler, but her mother is murdered in a brutal, horrible way. And then her dad ends up marrying someone from her high school, and she immediately has a sister that goes to the same high school and a new mom, the stepmom. Lisa has a dark sensibility. She visits this cemetery. She's you would definitely describe her as a goth chick. She's into goth clothes and goth fashion. And she ends up somehow manifesting a zombie from a grave comes to life and becomes a friend. Thus the Frankenstein. She uses a defective tanning bed, which nearly electrocuted her, to basically bring him more to life. He starts out as kind of this zombie played by Cole Sprouse, is very stiff and can barely move, is missing a hand, and ends up becoming more human the more she puts him in the tanning bed. She's having trouble at school, of course. She goes to a high school party. Some guy tries to make out with her and she doesn't want to be made out with. Typical teen problems. And it ends up, I don't even know. Okay. This all happens in the first 30 minutes, so it's fine. She ends up killing one of her schoolmates, the one who tried to make out with her, chopping his hand off to give the zombie another hand, which she just kind of sews on. It's weird. Then the zombie, in a fit of rage, ends up murdering her stepmother. They hide the body and just kind of ignore it. Look, it just gets utterly ridiculous because it ends up being where, Lisa has this crush on this boy that she wants to get with, and she asks the zombie to kind of help her get with the boy, but clearly the zombie has feelings for her. So it's a little love triangle there. This was written by
Diablo Cody.
Yeah, Diablo Cody. I can see where you'd read the script and go, "Oh, this is so clever. This is clever. We're definitely doing this. We're doing this." But the execution and the tone is so weird that it just doesn't seem to fit. This movie wants to be Tim Burton's Edward Scissorhands. Doesn't even come close. It's incapable of hitting that tone. I mean, I did talk to people. I talked to people who liked it, who saw it. It was the AMC or Regal mystery movie on Monday. So I saw it actually Monday. And it just didn't work for me. It was this weird thing where it's just like the way that the deaths are handled, the way that like Lisa kind of callously kills all these people. It doesn't make me like her character. Right. So I found the tone to be all over the place. I did not like Lisa Frankenstein. I felt like it tried way too hard. I don't think it's Diablo Cody's fault. I really believe that the script is very clever. It's the execution and the tone that isn't working for me. And I really like that lead actress, Catherine Newton.
Yes, she's a new Cassie from Ant-Man.
I like her. I think she's very good and she's very likable. This movie did not work at all. And Cole Sprouse, I don't know, as the zombie, I mean, it's fine. It just didn't work. Alan, what did you think of Lisa Frankenstein?
Yeah, I mean, Cole Sprouse put that Zack and Cody experience to work here. No, he was actually not that bad in this movie. I agree with you 100%. I was so bored at this movie. I saw it last night at my local theater at 10:30 at night, and I was the only one in the theater, which meant there were just points where I just want to check my phone, see what's on my phone, and then I'm looking at the clock, kind of going through how much time is left in this, and I just found myself not really relating to this movie or connecting with it emotionally whatsoever. And I think you hit on the fact that the tone is all over the place.
Yeah.
The issue for me was, am I supposed to be sympathetic toward Lisa? And I agree with you. I don't think they did Diablo Cody's script justice here because she's usually much more clever in a story than this. And I feel like they took things out. So I think they took a lot of the emotional elements of this movie out of it because, the new generation of filmmakers, I feel like what they're doing is they're just creating victims and assuming that you're going to empathize with that victim because they're a victim. So here's a girl whose mother died in a very brutal manner, and therefore we must sympathize with her, and therefore we must excuse the things she does. They set her up as this, dead mother, this outcast at school, and then she starts doing very bad things like murdering people. And there's, there's just no emotional, killing someone should affect you somehow, one way or the other. You can go the positive route and make it exciting, or you can make it, you go in the negative direction where it turns you into a darker person. That just doesn't happen here. I think the events of the movie dictate these events, but not the person personally. And so it's just very hard to connect and feel sympathy for that lead character. And quite frankly, a lot of the so-called villains of the movie, you see them as more sympathetic, weirdly enough, and they don't really address that. And you almost feel sad for them, for some of them who may have a dark demise. So I don't know. I just worry about this generation of storytellers. I just don't think they understand. They understand how to connect with an audience, and I think this movie is an example of that. You've got to connect with an audience. That's what you have to do. That's what makes great movies.
Yeah, it's weird. There's that. Of course, you've heard of the book "Save the Cat," which is a book. It's a book about screenwriting, and in it talks about examples. It's not necessarily always a cat, but when you save a cat, which Ellen Ripley did in the original Alien. Remember, she goes back to get the cat.
Yeah.
To go into the spaceship, right? Like it's like, it's so, which is so weird. Superman in the original Superman with Christopher Reeve literally saves a cat from a tree, right? Like there's
was that Superman 3 or was
no, that was Superman 1.
Okay.
Superman 1. And then, this is something I wonder if they changed this. So he saves the cat, gives it to this little girl. The little girl, this is in Superman 1978, Christopher Reeve. The little girl goes in the house, says to her mom, this man swooped from the sky, grabbed Fluffy out of the tree, and saved him. And then the mom says, "Haven't I told you to stop telling lies?" and slaps the kid. It's hilarious. I'm sure there'll be a trigger warning for that. But the thing is, what's weird is like the nerdy kid that tried to make out with her and she didn't want that. Like I don't know that that's enough of a justification to murder him and chop his hand off. She actually just chops his hands off and then kills him. Like that's not. It's
very Me Too. That's a Me Too
What's
attitude. It's a Me Too attitude that doesn't earn the payoff.
Yes,
it's a bad thing that happened, but to go to that extreme and just do it in a very cold and sociopathic way. It didn't earn that moment. You need to build to that moment to where you feel justified for that incident to happen.
Exactly. And then also the sort of callous way she deals with her stepmother, like, she is dead and it's like, I'm just going to hide it and just like ignore it because she's supposed to be away on some business trip and then doesn't check in. So she lies to her dad and her stepsister, who are perfectly nice to her. It's weird. Like you don't see, whereas something like when you see the movie Edward Scissorhands, you're so sympathetic towards Edward, right?
Yeah. In fact, you feel great sympathy for the stepsister by the end of the movie.
Yeah. By the end of the movie, you're like, the stepsister is like lost her mom. Like it's this, and like she's tried very hard to welcome Lisa into the family as a sister. And Lisa's just like, she's goth and like I'm too cool to kind of be friends. And she kind of just like, whatever, my stepsister. And so you really comes down to, I don't like the lead character of this movie. Yeah. She's not sympathetic. And I like the actress.
I just feel like this movie is so Gen Z. I mean, like the stepsister. I mean, the stepsister, honestly, is probably the most likable character in this, even though they portray her kind of in a bad way. Right. It's like if I were to go into the Gen Z woke mind, it's almost like, it's that white person who's really nice to you, who goes over and above and beyond to make you feel welcome, but yet they're racist down deep inside. That's kind of the attitude that these filmmakers today take, especially on white characters, on characters like this.
Yeah, well, you know what? Can't recommend Lisa Frankenstein. Alan?
Yep, nope. No, oh man. Yeah, there were times where it's like, I should just leave now. I just don't see this.
Right. Yeah, I checked my watch a few times.
Yeah, and like I said, I felt bad because I could tell I was the only one in the entire movie theater that night seeing this movie, and the staff was there waiting for me to finish watching this movie, and I was like, I could spare them and just leave now so that they can all go home.
Right. Let's go to your comments and questions here. Ken Bogus says, who's a member, says, thought about watching this, but Chris Allen and Grace Randolph didn't care for this. Okay, I'm out. Not gonna see it. From Rumble, Lord Shack says, oh my God, I just realized Chris and Alan are who Beavis and Butthead grow up to be. How did you know that? And then $8.24 says, sounds like they just mashed up elements of Cinderella into Frankenstein with a massive dash of social justice BS. That would be accurate. And I agree with Alan Horkin. Instead, watch the classic Young Frankenstein. Yes, the tone of young Mel Brooks just knows how to do it. Golden Spider Duck says, it sounds like it's in the strata of movies that feel like being clever is the most important thing. Not a fan. Yeah.
By the way, no, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say Young Frankenstein, written by Gene Wilder, who told Mel Brooks, you can direct it, but you can't be in it.
Oh, that's interesting. That's cool. JWT6577. This sounds right at the line of ridiculous and stupid and ridiculous and fun. But you could see that there's a script. Like the script there are ideas there, and there's something that's interesting about it. You know, a young girl, tragically lost her mom, is kind of gone to a dark place. I don't know. I wanted to like it, but did not.
It's kind of like, I guess I would sum it up as, what if Gen Z got a hold of a good script?
Nicholas Vargo says, surprised you didn't mention the director's name, probably out of respect for her late father. Who is the director of Lisa Frankenstein?
Okay.
Zelda Williams. I don't know who that is.
Yeah, I'll look it up.
Okay. Thank you, Nicholas. Indiana Jake says, in order to be a good writer, you have to know history, and Gen Z knows no history. Well, Gen Z
okay.
What?
Her dad is Robin Williams.
Oh, her dad is Robin Williams.
All right, this is a great movie.
Oh, I love this.
I love this movie.
No. Yeah, I wonder. I'm not going to say anything. I don't think anything needs to be said.
Yeah. Sorry. I mean, it's, the movie is, we can only judge what we saw on the screen.
Yep. All right. Moving on. This is sort of the dregs of movies that are coming out here. So, here we go. All right. It's time to talk about Out of Darkness. Out of Darkness is a film that is set 45,000 years in the past. And the language that they use in the film, the movie is subtitled, and there actually is a lot of dialogue, but I would argue that you almost don't need any dialogue for this movie because everything is so simple. You kind of get it in context what they're communicating. But it's a language called Tola, which was a totally invented language by a linguist and archaeologist, and it's based on, it's based on what may have been an ancient language. Out of Darkness is about a small tribe of people, men and women, that are being chased by something in the darkness, what is it? Is it a creature? What is it? Turns out it's just another tribe that is hunting them, but they're being hunted by all this crazy stuff in the forest. It's a story of survival. And I'm sorry to say, even at a 90-minute running time, I was actually kind of bored with the film. And my mind started going, they have these clean-cut haircuts. And all I thought to myself was, some of the characters have this sort of wild hair, and some of the characters in it have like hair that's kind of clean cut. And all I was thinking as I'm watching the movie was, how do they cut their hair? The basic, weapons they have are like spears and rocks. And
They don't have knives. Could you cut hair? Did you cut it like that with a knife?
I feel like they maybe even needed a scene where they're just like one of the characters is grooming another one. So it's like, oh, that's how they get their hair like that. But I'm sitting there going like, that hair is way too manicured for this to be someone from 45,000 years in the past. Any case, I was bored by it. I really wanted to like it. It kind of starts off actually pretty good. It starts off with like, ooh, what's chasing them? What's it's fear of what's out there in the dark. But I was thoroughly bored. The whole invented language thing whatever. Does it really matter? It doesn't. And like I said, almost everything you could have gleaned meaning from the context. You actually didn't need subtitles. So I did not, I really, really wanted to like this because, just the setup of it, the sort of clever nature. Didn't love it, and by the end didn't care. And the fact that also like a lot of the characters kind of look alike because they're all just like incredibly filthy, dirty people. They end up the climax of the movie ends up like they're in this cave trying to escape whatever. And I was just bored and didn't care. And you couldn't tell the characters apart. I can't tell you a character's name because they're all, I'm sure they had names. Didn't matter to me. God, this is the worst reaction. I'm not saying that this is a bad movie. It's definitely not a good movie. And this is the worst reaction, a movie that is sort of like in the middle, like meh. And that's Out of Darkness to me.
I can tell you those are the hardest movies to review.
Yes, it's
the ones that, like, if you really dislike something or you really like something, those are the easy reviews.
Right.
When they fall in the middle here. It just sounds like it's that typical, what's out in the dark, what's hunting me, but with a new skin to it, so to speak. And in those cases, you're really looking for something to elevate that story, that basic story. And it sounds like they tried to do it, I guess, with the Native American angle,
right?
But they just couldn't quite pull it off there.
Well, Sean, I'm going to get to your comment. I was just thinking of this movie, Quest for Fire. Ray Don Chong is in that film. That's a film from, I believe it's from the 80s.
Yeah.
Quest for Fire is similar to this in the sense that it's primitive, you kind of glean the Quest for Fire is really clever. Mm-hmm. It's funny. It has a story. There's the whole thing. There's the thing that I remember about it is one of the ways that these ancient, primitive people would have sex is the women would actually be at the river drinking water and the men would just sneak up behind them and have sex from behind. But no, this is real. This is in the movie. It's played very innocent. It's played for comedy, but the one woman, she wants to have sex with this guy, but she makes him turn around so they're facing each other, which is really weird for him. It's like, oh, we've always had sex this way. Now we're going to have sex facing each other. Quest for Fire is very good. I don't know if it holds up, though. I have not seen that movie since the 80s, but I remember really enjoying it because there are parts that are whimsical, that are comedic. There is a hero's journey. Out of Darkness has none of that. Yeah. There's not a hero's journey. There's no sex. It was just plain boring.
It's very formulaic. Yeah, I always tell filmmakers when you make a film like this, you need 3 moments that are memorable, that right. You want to talk about, that you want the audience to talk about. Even if you have like a weak story or a basic story like this, you need to create a moment that people are going to remember, and preferably 3, like I say. Otherwise I think you're just, it's like you got to try harder, especially if you're an indie filmmaker, to say that I know more about making a movie than just making a movie. I know how to create moments, and that's what we need.
Yeah, I can't think of one memorable moment from this, but I remember Quest for Fire from the 80s. I remember that. I can't tell you anything about a movie I saw yesterday that stood out in my mind. What does that tell you? And let's go to your chat comments.
Well, I would say the way you described Quest for Fire was Harvey Weinstein part of it.
Right. But it's played humorously. The women desire the men, right? But so it's not played. It's just that the way that they're having sex is a primitive way that the character played by Ray Don Chong is like, no, look at me. We can do it this way. And then the guy is very surprised, like, oh, they learn to make love instead of just have sex. It's done in a very innocent way in Quest for Fire. Yes, there's a sex scene, so perhaps it's rated R. I don't recall, but let's go to your chat comments and questions. Sean, who says, how does this compare to Quest for Fire? First of all, thank you for bringing that up. And yeah, you're right. It's Quest for Fire, much better. Don't see this. My memory of Quest for Fire from 30 years ago, 30 plus years ago, is better than a movie I saw yesterday. Clearly, this director is no Jean-Jacques Annaud.
1982.
82.
It's older than Film Threat.
Yeah. But I remember Quest for Fire. I remember really liking it. It was, there was a journey. There was a hero's journey for the film. There was a hero and there was a romance. This movie was meh. Hey, Mike MC Wong is here.
Boy.
Not only the clean hair, they're also shaven. Faces are clean. Supposed to be really cold, and they do not wipe their sweat. Have tailored clothes and boots. Spears perfectly straight with carvings. Yeah, I just thought that the authenticity of the primitive look was awful. The caveman from the Geico commercials would be a more accurate portrayal of a primitive than the people from this film. I'm not kidding.
Yeah, I will say though, I'll give indie film a pass on a lot of that stuff.
Right.
Because, authenticity, it can be expensive sometimes.
Yeah, look, and Mike MC Wong goes on to say the cast was diverse: an African, Guerrero, a Latino, final girl, white, old elder, etc. Took me right out. Yeah, okay. You know what? I don't care what. Just make them all the same. Whatever you want to do, just make them all the same.
Yeah, in fact, if you made the entire cast Native American, you would still pass the diversity test.
Yeah, it just how do you have diverse primitives in a sparsely populated area? This movie made just lapses in logic, the production design. I was like, okay, this is going somewhere at the beginning, but halfway through, I was like, I want this to be over.
Yeah. Well, ultimately, it's the story. A story can elevate a movie above a lot of these nitpicks, and it wasn't there.
Yeah. And then SP of the North says Frank is Mr. Skin.
Yeah, are you Mr. Skin?
Quest for Fire sex scenes are not it's whatever. All right. We have our special guest is going to be joining us very soon.
Let's just say if Chris was Mr. Skin, the production values of this show would be much higher.
I would agree with you, Alan.
Yeah,
I would agree. All right. Hey, let's we got one more film to review for today. I just don't know if we're going to we got 5 minutes. Can I do a review in 5 minutes?
For this one, maybe.
Let's do it. All right, folks. Come on. Marmalade is the name of the girl. This is named after a character that Joe Keery, as his character's name is Baron. Marmalade is played by Camilla Morrone, and Marmalade is a firecracker. She's a firecracker and a thief, and she robs stores and banks. And she does this with the help of Joe Keery's character, Baron, who's a dimwit. He's a trailer trash dimwit, and he's telling this story from prison. So Joe Keery's telling the story about how he got here to his cellmate, played by Aldous Hodge, who's Otis, and it's wacky. It's sort of almost like in a Raising Arizona way. That's kind of the tone for this. And he's telling this wacky story about this crazy, hot, sexy lady that convinced him to go on this crime spree in the South, stealing a ton of money. And it's the way that it's structured is you're cutting from the prison where it begins to Joe telling the story, Baron telling the story of his life. He starts a little way too soon. They sort of play with time. It's very clever. And then Camilla Morrone as Marmalade is smoking hot. There are sex scenes. I wouldn't describe this as an erotic thriller romance comedy, but it has elements of all of that. And I actually really enjoyed the film. Turns out that there's a twist as we catch up to present day and Baron's circumstances in prison. I don't want to ruin the twist, but it was clever, funny. Camilla Morrone as Marmalade is just awesome and super sexy, and they lean into that in an unabashed way. And Joe Keery is just a very likable actor. I like him in everything I've seen him in. I mean, obviously from Stranger Things is where he kind of made his mark, but
Spree is my favorite.
Yeah, Spree is fantastic. He did a great job in Spree. So all I can say is this, not the strong recommendation, but I'll say really enjoyed Marmalade, and it's worth checking out. It's worth checking out, especially if you like Joe Keery, and you'll be pleasantly surprised. I can't ruin the twist in the middle of the movie. I can't. But the movie, the movie starts like it's being told. You know, you hear the story in the past, where they catch up to the present, and then it gets even crazier. So I don't want to say, but very enjoyable and worthwhile indie film. Let's check out some comments.
I just want to say Aldous Hodge. I will see it because of him. He is a very underrated actor and probably the best thing in Black Adam. As
that's
Hawkman.
true. Yeah. That's true. We have our special guest that's going to be joining us momentarily, but let's get your quick comments here. All Twisted Up says, I hope Marmalade is bad so you can say it's not my jam. But do I have that sound effect here somewhere? I don't know. Is that it? No, wait. No, is it?
No, that's not it.
That's not it. Sorry, folks. I don't know how to work. I have all this expensive equipment. I don't know how most of it works. So there you go. But it's time for us to pivot because we have a special guest joining us. So we're going to pivot here. So we're probably going to, here's what we're going to do. We're going to play a video. This is what we do when we're trying to stall for time. We're pivoting. We're pivoting, Alan. It's happening. It's
play the
happening.
video.
Hey, this episode of the Film Threat Livecast is sponsored by...
Just wait till you see what I've got. It's the Wonder Boner.
The Wonder Boner?
Oh, you laugh now. Just watch. The Wonder Boner. My wife would like that. So, Dave, where did you get the Wonder Boner? It's funny you should ask.
Order your Wonder Boner now. Call toll-free 855-246-9948 and receive the amazing Wonder Boner for just $19.95.
Yeah. By the way, act now and you'll get 2 for the price of 1.
Oh my God. All right. Joining us on the show today, a movie we just talked about at the top of the show. The director of Molli and Max in the future, Michael Lukk Litwak. Did I say that correctly? Michael Lukk Litwak?
Yeah, you did.
Awesome. Hey, let's put you front and center here and talk to you about the film that Alan and I both gave it a 9 out of 10. I don't know if you were watching earlier.
I saw Alan's, but I haven't. I was in a meeting right before this, but that's amazing. I'm so grateful. Thank you.
And Michael, I actually met you at Oak Cliff Film Festival.
Oak Cliff, yeah. I remember that. I mean, because I am a fan of Film Threat. I read it, and was really hoping for to get covered by you guys, and so was very, very honored to get a 9 out of 10. And we're using pull quotes from your guys' reviews, and it means a lot.
Well, you're a fan until we give you a bad review, and then you're not going to be a fan. But look, exactly. I watched the movie twice, it's rare where it's just like, because I watch a lot of movies, I watch the film and then I'm like, I watch another movie and it was so bad, Private Eye, that I watched your movie again because I had
Oh,
to get
wow.
the bad movie taste out of my mouth. It's so clever. And I don't know if you heard how I described it. It's like Annie Hall meets Red Dwarf, the British sci-fi sitcom. The matter-of-fact way that elements like the poop phone, the parallel universe phone, it's just, they never acknowledge, it's just matter of fact, like using.
They don't wink at the camera when they tell a joke.
Or it doesn't call itself out like, look how clever this is. It just is. So it's, to me, it's all about the writing and the chemistry between your two leads. What came first, this script? How did you find the two leads? And I want to talk to you about the special effects and whatnot, but let's start off with the story and the cast.
Yeah, totally. Well, first of all, thank you. That's so great to hear. Yeah, it came from a lot of different areas. I kind of grew up watching, Back to the Future and Star Wars and just, big budget, high octane action adventure, life and death stakes, kind of plot driven films. And then that's kind of like what made me fall in love with movies as a kid. And then as I kind of got older, I found myself kind of gravitating towards a new type of movie, which was about people walking around New York, complaining about their therapists and, dealing with everyday problems and worrying about small kind of slights and your reputation and, kind of all these like real world things. And I fell in love with those types of films that are maybe a little bit more character first films. And I moved to New York to go to NYU and I started making short films. And just in the process of making things, I kind of realized that I wanted to make movies that were true to what got me into filmmaking in the first place, but also kind of true to what kind of kept me interested in filmmaking. And so I started making a bunch of shorts. I had my NYU thesis did well and it got me like representations and stuff. And then I spent, 7 or 8 years trying to get a movie made and it looked like it was going to happen. I had, we put together a budget and we had some cast attached and this is a different movie. And it looked like we were going to make this kind of bigger indie film. And then the pandemic happened and it all kind of fell apart and kind of overnight, like so many people, like my life just kind of went on pause. And I suddenly had a lot of time and whenever I'm feeling down or I have time, I watch movies and, I went through all the Pixar movies and then I love a good theme. And then I decided to go through like romantic comedies with my wife and I rewatched When Harry Met Sally and, it's a perfect film. I love that movie so much, but it was interesting to watch it in the midst of like lockdown because you never know what they're, you have no idea what they do for a living. You have no idea what their life is like outside of kind of their relationship. You have no idea like what's going on in the world around them. It is this movie that can feel like very much like comfort food because it is just so focused on them and it doesn't bring in kind of like the problems of the world around them. And so I love it. Don't get me wrong, but I was like, I don't think you could make that exact same movie today. And I don't think I'd want to see that exact same movie again, because it would just be a direct copy of When Harry Met Sally. So, but the kind of wheels got started turning because I was like, well, how would you make a modern When Harry Met Sally? And how would I want to do that by, and how could I incorporate all the different things I love about filmmaking? And so part of it was like, so much of our time and energy is spent on the internet. So much of dating has changed because of internet dating. I think people like what is going on in the world outside you very much directly affects you, and whether or not you are able to even pursue the career you want is dependent upon, what is going on outside. And then on top of that, you never find out what they do for a living in When Harry Met Sally. And as for me, someone whose like career is a very big part of my identity, it was interesting to see a movie that just didn't even kind of broach that part of life. And so it kind of started from, this place of like, I wanted to capture the zeitgeist of like what it feels like to be alive today, where it can feel really overwhelming and frustrating and scary and kind of absurd to be alive. But, really at the end of the day, what kind of gets us through all of that is our relationships, whether they're with our friends or our loved ones or our romantic relationships. And I think, a great romantic comedy is kind of about the power of two people that can have an influence on one another's lives, and how you can kind of learn and grow and challenge somebody else to learn and grow. Because I think that is what happens in real life, and that is what relationships do for you. So it really kind of all started from that, and I always try to kind of start from like an emotional place of like, what is the feeling I'm trying to get across to an audience? And then how do I use science fiction and fantasy and metaphors and allegories to kind of explore those feelings and try to show people what those feelings actually feel like? Because in real life, something will happen, and when you maybe tell it to your friend, they'll be like, it's not that big of a deal, but it will feel like such a big deal to you. And I think that's something that I love about fantasy and science fiction, is it can take these things and make it kind of really communicate, the higher stakes kind of feeling of some of these life experiences.
Yeah. When Harry Met Sally, I'm surprised that didn't pop into my head. That it is definitely structurally similar to that, as it just, and it really works. It's the chemistry with your lead actors, Zosha and Aristotle, they're so good together, and the dialogue is so quick. It almost reminded me of like one of those 30s zippy comedies where there are no pauses, right?
Yeah.
People are just talking, and it's off to the next thing. And I just also love the way that they take the ridiculousness of the world just as matter of fact. The fact that Max is like this, he builds robots and fights in robot fighting. It's like the robot UFC or MMA. Was that stop motion animation? How was that done?
It was, yeah, it was all stop motion. And so, I mean, basically there's almost no CG in the entire film, or no 3D animation. Almost everything was done 100% practically. And so me and Zach Stoltzfus, the DP of the film, we spent about 18 months, not every single day, but 2 or 3 days a week. We started in my living room building these miniatures and these models, kind of kit bashing them together, combining different model kits. And this was something that I had done previously on a couple shorts of mine, but it was really just kind of, part of it is because I love the way that 70s and 80s sci-fi looks. I love the original Star Wars films, that kind of like lived in universe, filled with greeble and detail, not really like the sleek science fiction aesthetic. But so I really love the way that looks. And then the other part of it was just like, realistically, we can't afford to hire CG artists, but we can kind of slap together and glue together some models. And if we don't try to compete with Marvel and DC, then maybe we can make something unique and different and interesting, and it's going to look handmade. It's going to look lo-fi, but it'll be on purpose and not, necessarily a compromise. So, we spent a long time kind of building out the backgrounds for the film. And then the first week we shot all on an LED stage, where we would put the pre-rendered backgrounds up on a video screen and then have the actors stand in front of it. And a lot of them were like animated 2D plates. And then we also used a little bit of Unreal Engine, where we had, one location, Max's home planet is, that is the only kind of CG location where it is, I have to ask, rocks.
If you don't mind me interrupting, did you shoot on the volume or like a low budget version of the volume that you created?
Yeah, it's basically a low budget version of the volume, but I mean, It was a real LED stage, but like I hope I'm not using the wrong terms here, but because I'm still relatively new to all this too, but it's like, from my understanding, like the volume is when the camera is hooked up to it, like a 3D tracker. And
right.
We did one day where it was hooked up to that, and when you moved the camera, there was parallax, and we were using a Unreal Engine video game environment. The other 4 days that we shot on the LED stage, it was basically pre-rendered plates, the same way that like if two people are driving a car, the background behind them is moving, they're just playing a video clip behind them. But then the other 3 weeks that we shot, it was a combination of green screen, but then also rear screen projection. So it's the same thing as shooting on the LED stages, but just not a TV screen. And instead it was just, a projector putting that, and then we'd stand the actors in front of that.
We have a lot of questions here. Real quick, James Willard, will there be a UK release, Michael?
I hope so. I mean, we're taking the movie to Berlin next week, and so it all depends if someone in the UK wants to buy it. But we played at BFI London, which was a really great experience, and I really hope it gets UK distribution. So I think it will be available somewhere in the UK eventually. The question is obviously when.
Yeah, I want to ask you this question because when we were at Oak Cliff, one of the discussions that you and other filmmakers had was the distribution. The distribution seemed to have been an obstacle, something to overcome for you and the other filmmakers. What was your distribution for Molli and Max ultimately like?
So we're in theaters starting today, and we have a limited theatrical release, which I'm, extremely grateful for, and was honestly not expecting, because I think if anyone is expecting to make a small, low-budget independent film and end up in theaters, they're kind of crazy, based on kind of the way the landscape is right now. But so we premiered at South by Southwest, and it was a really amazing reception. We got a lot of positive reviews out of it, but it was just a bleak year for films in general. Like, nothing big was getting acquired. There was there was Fair Play at Sundance, but like, other than huge name things, like a lot of the streamers have kind of stopped acquiring small titles. And so we went through the sales process. We showed it to a lot of people, and we actually had, 5 offers coming out of South by. A lot of them were very small, but we ended up partnering with a small indie distribution company called Level 33. And they've honestly been great. And like, they were the ones who were like, we want to do theatrical. And I was kind of like, yeah, right. Like, you're kind of just saying that, you're blowing smoke. And they've really, been great partners. They've been super transparent. They have like a Google Doc where we can keep track of everything that's going on, which from hearing other people talk about it is not always the case. And so we're in New York and LA starting today. We're also in 10 or 12 different cities around the country. The full list is at mollyandmax.com with a bunch of links to different tickets that you can buy at different places. And so we'll be in theaters until the 16th. The 15th at least. And, we'll maybe get extended, but again, you never know.
The chat is on fire. We've got over 500 people watching live. A lot of questions for you. So we'll try to get through as many as we can. We have another interview in 15 minutes. So we'll do as much as we can here. Super chat here from Sean Hu for 742 says, classic Doctor Who 63 to 89 did very well with low budget effects. It's nice to see that spirit is still going. And Christopher Moonlight Productions says, how do you think about sci-fi in a way that makes it relatable to today's worries and hopes?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good question. I think, like, to me, part of that was like updating a romantic comedy, which usually doesn't talk about the world. And I think science fiction is always about the relationship of an individual to society. And it's also about the relationship of like technology to society. And I think one of my favorite quotes about science fiction is from this guy, Frederick Pohl, Pohl. And he says that, like, I'm probably going to butcher the quote, but it's like, science fiction is not about predicting the flying car. It's about predicting the traffic jam afterwards. And I think part of kind of, the grand kind of philosophy of this film is essentially that no matter what day and age you are in, whether it's the past or the future, we're going to have some similar problems. And I think that's one of the things that I love about science fiction, is that you see your world in a slightly different time. So obviously everything is based in the future in this movie, but it's talking about very current day problems in the sense of, what it's like to live in 2023 when, living with social media as a big part of your life, living with an unstable political environment, living with a plague, and I've tried to, I hope it doesn't come off as too topical, but in my eyes, a lot of these things are very cyclical in the sense that there's always going to be a politician who's trying to take advantage of normal people and kind of, fooling them. And then there's, there's from the Black Plague to the 1919 pandemic, like there's always going to kind of be these giant world disrupting events. And, I don't really want those to be the focus of anything. To me, these are kind of background elements. But I think when you're thinking about science fiction, you have to take into consideration what is the world outside of the characters, and how is the world a reflection of the characters, and what is that kind of relationship there for.
Yeah, it's so cleverly done, that game show, to become like president of the universe. It was just insane. And just the dialogue is so clever. I don't want to ruin any of it. Just the fact that it's so nonchalant, matter of fact, this is this crazy sci-fi universe. It just really enjoyable. The Nerd Far Away asks, "Hail, Mr. Litwak. Do you prefer filming on location or in studio? Advantages of each."
I will always pick studio over location. I mean, you can go to the bathroom, you have craft services right there, you have air conditioning. I mean, you can control the lighting. You're not fighting against the sunlight. I mean, I think that I will always choose a studio over real life location. And obviously, sometimes you need a real life location. It always depends on the script, and you need to do what's best for the script. But on a pure kind of comfort level, it's so much better to shoot on a studio.
Yeah. I'm looking up your website right now to share it with our audience. But everyone's asking how you can see it. It's in theaters, limited release, and then coming to VOD at some point.
Yeah, it'll be on video on demand March 22nd. We're also going to be doing a digital screening, I think, on March 9th. And that is with a company called Kino, Kino. And so that will be available to anybody who has internet access.
Here it is. It's playing in LA, New York, Atlanta, Austin, Charlotte, Chicago, Dallas, DC, Houston, Morro Bay, Nashville, Madison, Phoenix, Seattle. That's a decent theatrical release.
Yeah.
More than 10
There's
cities.
some good theaters in Orange County, so I may take my daughter to see it.
Yeah,
that'd be amazing.
Oh yeah, I there's just so much. Can you talk a little bit about you know what? We have so many questions. Okay. Let's see. JBGB says Gateway. Frederick Pohl is a legend. And then question here from Rumble 8Ls24 says, how did you come to cast Zosha Mamet? And is there any pressure knowing her father will likely see this film?
I actually don't know if her dad is going to watch the film. So,
oh no.
I mean, sometimes maybe he will, maybe he won't. I think she makes career choices for herself and doesn't really kind of take that into consideration. I think, I don't think he would maybe enjoy some of the political aspects of satire aspects of the film, but I'm sure he could still appreciate his daughter's wonderful performance in it. But so she, I'd been familiar with her work for many years because she was on Girls and she was on The Flight Attendant. And, she was my favorite part of both of those shows. I just think she's so funny. She's got a natural talent, a natural charisma. She also has comedic chops, even though she's not traditionally a comedian, but she's so just naturally funny. And so I had, she doesn't live in New York right now, but she had lived in New York for a long time, and I had lived in New York for a long time. And so my wife had worked with her husband briefly, but really we came to her through her agent and her manager, and we sent them the script. And we had some loose mutual friends, but it really was that we sent it to her and she really liked it. And, there are certain actors who are interested in doing independent films. And she is just a true artist who wants to work on cool things. And she has no ego. She's really down to earth. She's really humble. We were a 12-person crew. You have to have someone who's down for the adventure and understands kind of the hustle of making a low budget film. And she is just the best team player you could ever ask for. And she was by far the most experienced person I'd ever worked with. And she could have gotten frustrated. She could have been impatient, and she really wasn't. She was just endlessly kind. She set the tone for everybody, she had the most experience out of everybody on that set. And she really kind of led by example and was so flexible. And yeah, I just cannot say enough nice things about her.
What about Aristotle? Was he on Saturday Night Live at the time when you cast him?
Yeah, so I found out about him also through our casting director, and she pointed me towards him, and I watched a bunch of his stand-up material because he had been working as a comedian for many years before he got cast on SNL, and then I watched a bunch of his SNL sketches. He had also had a sketch group called Goat Face, that was on Comedy Central. And, he is just this crazy like chameleon where he can do all of these insane impressions that are super specific, but he can also just like play grounded and normal. And, he has this deep range. And with both of them, I wanted people that would kind of bring their unique personalities to the project and make it their own. And similarly too, Aristotle was also such an incredible team player and, was such a huge part of making the film. And they both have like amazing improv skills. And so I think so much of the chemistry was that they are just pros and know how to make each other feel comfortable. And then we would just drill things over and over again. We had 5 days of rehearsal, but they both just have great instincts.
Well, I mean, she is just, I cannot rave enough about her and the chemistry with Aristotle. And clearly, because at the end of the film over credits, you've got a little bit of behind the scenes. You get to see, they seem like they were having a lot of fun, genuinely having a blast making this film. Another question here from Rudy for 5. Question for everyone. Do you think that the lack/failure of big budget movies, the flopbuster, which was the term that was coined by the trade publications last year, will mean we'll see more indie movies in theaters? Congrats, David. I look, this is why Film Threat exists, to tell you about these types of films. But yeah, what do you think, Michael?
I hope so. I mean, I think like Barbie and Oppenheimer are obviously huge movies. They aren't independent films, but I think, everybody kind of looks to what's the most successful and then they try to replicate that. And I think those are examples of 2 original films. Obviously one's based off of IP and the other one's based off of a real life true story. But, I think there is kind of a superhero fatigue out there. I think people want something new. They want something different. And I mean, really what matters is people just look at the numbers. And so going out and seeing a small movie like this is really important, because if people look at it and say it was successful, then it helps get more of them get made. And so, and shows like this and publications like Film Threat like that, you need that for an indie ecosystem to be thriving.
Yeah. It's just, I think there's going to be an indie film revolution, because I'm sure that you made Molli and Max in the future for probably a very small percentage of Barbie and Oppenheimer. And I would also like to point out Barbie and Oppenheimer, both of those movies made by filmmakers who started in indie film. Chris Nolan's first movie following was at the Slamdance Film Festival. His second film, Memento, was at Sundance. Greta Gerwig started as an actress. Mumblecore Queen and brilliantly talented. So look at the top films are coming from indie film, and even Marvel back in the day used to hire and pluck indie filmmakers like James Gunn and say, hey, you could make a Marvel movie, go ahead. So what Marvel movie are you going to make, Michael?
I mean, it's one of those things, like I would love to make a huge budget film. I have ambitions to do that, but I'm also not going to wait around for someone to call me. So I have, other projects that I'm working on, other things that I'm excited about. And if someone calls my phone, I'll definitely pick up and look into it. But, I love giant, big budget action, sci-fi and adventure films. So I would love to be doing that. But to me, it's more, my main priority is making things that I care about and doing it in a way that is creatively fulfilling and satisfying. So, if I've learned anything from like 10 years of trying to get movies made, it's like sometimes things happen in ways that you don't expect, and you kind of have to kind of stay open to what life kind of puts in front of you, and go with the flow a little bit.
A question here. Apparently you've been knighted. Solomon Thornton says, Sir Michael, congratulations on the film. Any advice for beginning filmmakers?
Yeah, I mean, I think that one of the biggest mistakes that I kind of made over the last 10 years was like waiting for other people to try to kind of save me. And I think this is something Mark Duplass has talked about, and is one of the his viral quotes is like, the cavalry isn't coming. And I think a lot of people look at their shorts or even their first features as this like, oh, well, I just have to make something and get other people's attention, and then they'll come in and they'll save me and they'll do all the hard stuff. And it's a grind every time. Like Martin Scorsese still struggles to get movies made. Steven Spielberg has a number of projects that are in development, and it's like, it's always going to be really, really difficult. And I think the only thing you can do is just kind of put your head down, try to make movies that are possible within your means. And, like you said, people like Christopher Nolan and Greta Gerwig, they started making $5,000 and $10,000 movies, and it's not glamorous. It's very difficult, but if it was easy, everybody would do it. So I think you got to really kind of figure out, and it took me a really long time to figure out, how do I do my version of a tiny, tiny movie? And you have to wear a lot of hats and learn how to do multiple things, because if you don't, you're letting your career kind of rest in other people's hands.
And a last question here. Sons and Shadows, who's a member, says, do you have any projects in the future? If so, anything you can tell us, or not yet?
Yeah, I have my next movie that's basically ready to go, and we're starting to send it out to financiers and production companies. And, ideally we get a certain higher number and we can make it at a comfortable level. But if we don't get that number, then I'm ready to go and do it this way again and make a small version of it. So it really, part of it, honestly, people are looking at how well this does in theaters and how well it does on video on demand and how much press we get. And so spreading the word about this film will like actively help me get the next one made. Hopefully it'll happen. But to answer the question, it's a sci-fi Western heist film. So another kind of cross genre, but it's about a group of friends. And I think every movie's a love story, as James Cameron says. So this one is too, but in a very different way.
Well, it was also refreshing just to see a love story. I feel like Hollywood, for some strange reason, has been excising romance from films. It was the first thing I noticed when I saw The Force Awakens, the Star Wars sequel. I'm like, where is the romance? I mean, Star Wars, the first Star Wars began with the romance,
Yeah, I mean, the Han Solo Princess Leia storyline is like really the heart of those films. I think it's a missed opportunity, and I can understand maybe some of the motivations behind it of wanting to not have that be the main focus, but I think there's always room for it, and it makes every movie better.
I agree. Well, you nailed it. The link to your website is going to be in the description of this video. So look for it. We'll add that. And we're going to put your interview, we're going to clip it and put it on our Film Threat Interviews channel. Michael, thank you so much for joining us on the show today. Awesome. Congratulations and good luck on your future projects. Make sure you don't forget us. Come talk to us.
Yeah. And go see Molli and Max in theaters.
Go see Molli and Max in theaters. Awesome. All right, Michael, have a great rest of your day. Take care.
Take care, guys.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
That was awesome. We're going to do a little quick reset here as we get ready for our next interview. So let me do that. I do see all your chat comments and questions. So please be patient with us as we reset here. We're going to bring on.
There's a lot of questions already for.
Yeah. There's a lot of questions already. I see them. It's all good. We'll get to as many as possible. We will do our best. So let's do it. Joining us on the show, we have the director Irving Franco and actor David Duchovny. I see David Duchovny in our green room here. David, are you there?
Yeah.
Are you there?
I'm trying to turn my camera around.
Okay. It's all good, sir.
Well,
it's all good.
You guys just won't do Zoom, so we gotta deal with what you're dealing with here. So
okay, cool.
It's not turning around, so I'm gonna I wonder what I can do. No, I'm on an iPad.
You're on an iPad.
Oh yeah, just gotta
Just
flip it.
Just physically. There you go.
There we go.
Yeah, it's good. Perfect. We see you perfect.
Yes, but it's frozen in a very unflattering shot of
Oh no! Well, you could
my-
leave and come back. Leave and come back.
my
We'll
finger.
have-
You like my fingerprint there? Hold on a
I
second.
love the fingerprint.
Let me try it again. Oh, there we go.
Oh, there we go.
There you go. All right, Mr. Duchovny, thank you so much for joining us. I think Irving Franco is trying to.
I need a new DP. Clearly.
Yeah. Well, hey, here's Irving. Here he is. Irving.
Hey, David.
Thank you for joining us. Hey, thanks to both of you. I'm gonna keep David
Hey,
center screen here.
Hey, how you been?
First of all, congratulations.
Sorry,
I'm-
Irving and I are going to have a conversation right now. Sorry.
Sure, we'll step out.
No,
I'm
go
Chris
ahead.
Gore, just from Film Threat. My colleague here, Alaning, we're both from Film Threat. Longtime fans, obviously, of so much of your work. Congratulations on this film. I want Adam the First, which is a touching story about your son looking for his real father. Very touching tale. I do have to ask, I don't know what the budget for this movie is, but could you have afforded a shirt? Because you're pretty much shirtless for a lot of the movie. No, I'm kidding. But were those tattoos real? Are those your real tattoos?
Were they real, David?
Absolutely not. I mean, I have a few tattoos, but not the big, not the body ones. I mean, those tattoos probably had some significance that Irving knows about. What was the significance of all those body tattoos? I mean, and let me say, I would have liked a shirt because it was quite cold where we were shooting.
It was. Well, I just wanted to get people wondering, you know. So those tattoos, I think, get people wondering. I don't know what about, but as long as they're wondering.
Well, certainly adds to the character for sure.
Yeah.
How did you two get together, and how did you get aboard this project?
I see I'm frozen again, so if that doesn't bother you guys, it's okay with me. Is that
It's all
cool?
good. Yeah,
Okay.
it's cool.
How's
Irving, you wanna
service
take
and
that
sound on my side?
Oh, you're fine. You're fine. It's all
Your
good.
internet is strong.
Yeah.
Bastard.
Yeah, so I mean, we did it the old-fashioned way. You know, we had to go through the agencies and learn how that all worked. I was new to it. My first feature was much more micro budget, and there weren't many names involved. But you know, with Adam the First, we felt like we had something special, and we were hoping that someone like David would connect with it. And so, you know, we had to first figure out who might know the right way to get through and make us seem real and professional. And you know, ultimately our thought was, you know, if we could just get the script on his table, you know, he'll get it. And you know, from there, hopefully the trust will build. And, you know, thank goodness, you know, David responded, you know, very warmly to it and was enthusiastic. And, you know, he stuck with the project, you know, through many delays and pushes, which were quite discouraging, you know, leading to the pandemic and then through the pandemic. But yeah, I mean, David was a huge encouragement from the beginning. You know, he connected with the script and you know, he was, it was terrific from there. That's
Thanks, Irving. Now you're looking at a shot of a lamp and my mother from a long time ago, and a friend of mine who was a grip on Californication. So I'm sorry, I can't swing it back. I tried. So all you got is my voice. But yes, the script came to me as Irving said, and you know what I immediately recognized what it wasn't really like other scripts that I've read or gotten. It was very unique and had its own. Irving had his own voice, you know, and that remained true through the shooting of it. Irving was really pursuing his own vision, which I really appreciate, you know, more and more as we have entered into, you know, the Netflixification of the world. Somebody really coming to it very, very personal, very, very idiosyncratic voice, which he maintained as a shooter as well as a director. And I thought there was something biblical about it that I really liked. There was something archetypical about it. You know, I wouldn't quite call it a realism, but it was like a heightened realism. It was like almost like a, you know, mythological realism. And I responded to that.
Yeah,
I love hearing that. Thank you, David.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean,
you
streaming.
wrote it, so thank you.
We've got a lot of questions in the chat. Got about 600 people watching us live at the moment. So if you don't mind
shit.
taking questions.
I wish I could. My camera worked. I'm sorry about that. Is there
Oh.
anything I can do?
Flip it around. Actually, physically flip the iPad if you can. But
All right.
if you don't,
This could be the end of the world. Hold on.
let's give it a shot. But a lot of questions for you, David. So if you don't mind,
Do you see
Caleb,
me?
we can't see you, but it's all good.
We can hear you great.
We can hear you fine.
All right.
So Caleb
Okay.
Chachelli asks, watched X-Files with my late father, who was a huge fan. I was probably too young. In school, I tried at inventing paranormal stuff to investigate with my friends. What was your favorite season and episode as Fox Mulder?
Well, we were just like you and your friends. We were just inventing paranormal stuff to investigate ourselves. You know, that's what the show was. You know, it wasn't based in any kind of. I mean, I'm sure some of the stories were inspired by things, but you know, not. There were no real X-Files. What was the question? What was my favorite?
Your favorite episode? Yeah.
Oh,
if you have a favorite episode.
I mean, I don't really have a favorite. I really enjoyed the scripts that Chris Carter wrote, and that Darren Morgan wrote, and Vince Gilligan wrote. So there's probably 20 in there between them. I mean, Chris wrote way more than that, but I felt like those voices were really, really fun to portray. And also, like tomorrow, I'm giving an award to David Nutter at the DGA, and you know, we had great directors work on the show as well. David Nutter, Kim Manners, Rob Bowman, Chris Carter as well. So you know, I have so many fond memories, not just of the actual episodes, but you know, just my life at the time. You know, it becomes kind of your life when you're doing a show that's that difficult to shoot.
Latino Slant asks for $4.99. David, longtime fan, serious question. Are you familiar with the magazine Hella?
I'm familiar with Hello. I'm not as familiar with Hella. Tell me something about it.
I don't know. I don't know. Are you? Sorry.
I actually want to ask Irving a question, but regarding Adam the First, I described it as kind of coming of age Homer's Odyssey. What was the inspiration behind the story?
Yeah, I really appreciate you saying that. Thank you. I mean, and I would say, you know, my first film was kind of a high school romance, and my thinking was, if I could just take that 80s genre, high school genre, and find a way to tell it in the style of the auteur filmmakers that I loved, and with a personal element, dealing with a lot of my own insecurities and questions and things, maybe I'll find that balance between something you've seen a million times, but something you've never seen before, something that feels timeless and classic and universal, but at the same time feels very much signature to one person's artistic personality. And with my second film, Adam the First, I wanted to continue in that vein. And I said, where, you know, let's jump into another genre. I said, let's do the road thing. Let's do a hero's journey, which is as old as time. You know, you're taking it from antiquity. But let's do it in a way where I get to inject my own personal questions and idiosyncrasies, like Dave said, into it, so that we can find this strange balance between, just like you said, something that feels as old as myth itself, but very fresh and strange and unique to me, and hopefully that makes it interesting. That was the goal. So when you said that in the article, I really appreciate it.
More questions just coming in. I can't keep up here. Jimmy Francis asks, for David, for many of us, you have been such an icon within the paranormal genre. If not too personal a question, what are your personal views on the paranormal? Do you have views on it yourself?
I mean, not as profound as people want them to be. You know,
right.
I'm eternally disappointing people with my answer to that question. But you know, I'd love to to make people happy and say that I was Fox Mulder, but I'm interested in spiritual things as well, and I guess that's somewhat paranormal. And I feel like that's kind of to bring it back to the movie at hand. That's kind of what Irving is dealing with here. When I say biblical or mythological, I feel like he's dealing, and it's a very spiritual movie in a way. I don't know if it's religious in any particular sense, but it's very spiritual. So I'd like to add Adam the First into my paranormal oeuvre.
The nerd far away says, "Hail, Mr. Duchovny. Who is your favorite author?"
Well, hail yourself. I have many favorite authors. It's hard to pick a favorite. I often come back to Philip Roth, though, as a contemporary author, or nearly contemporary author, a great 20th century author. But I have dozens of favorite authors, but that's one that comes to mind as you ask that question.
David, are you a Saul Bellow guy?
Yeah, I love Saul Bellow. I should have said Saul Bellow. See that? Yeah,
Me too.
those questions are always the worst. You're like the Beatles, like, oh fuck, the Stones, oh shit, the Kings, oh forget it, I forget it.
Exactly.
So Womp Biscuits has a comment and a question. Says, for David, it appears you've successfully avoided being typecast, which is all too common for TV actors. How did you do it?
Oh, I guess I didn't think about it. I don't think it's a real thing. I think it's typecasting is not a real thing. Obviously, you make impressions in certain parts. Some parts become more famous or lasting than others, and every actor has to deal with that. Ultimately, it's actually a mark of success. That something like that happens. So I just thought that if I waited and did good work and kind of pursued things that I was interested in, then eventually that might move away from the first line of my obituary. But I don't know. I still don't know if it has.
Question here from Red Pilled Rants says, David, you are the man, and the new film looks great. But I've got to ask you, what was it like working with another David, the creative maestro, David Lynch?
I'd like to know.
I don't want to inflate Irving too much, but I'd be happy to. But see, the thing is, there are filmmakers who have like their own voices, and David Lynch has the most particular voice of any filmmaker I've ever had the pleasure to work with. So yeah, when you're on a David Lynch set, it's like you're completely at the service of a vision that he's completely the master of. There's a safety in that, and there's also tension. You want to exist in his world in the way he wants you to. And Irving, not blowing smoke, not trying to blow smoke, is also a very individual, as I said in the beginning, idiosyncratic filmmaker, and has that kind of a vision, as a writer director. Not similar at all to David Lynch, not at all, but a similar kind of a vibe for me. It's like, okay, this guy. This guy's got this world in his mind, and I got to figure out how to get into it, rather than kind of playing fast and loose and trying to work whatever is realism, surrealism, or whatever. Just trying to listen to exactly what he's trying to do.
And
you definitely got into it, David. You definitely were in there with me.
Let me throw in another Adam the First question, but talk about Oakes Fegley, your star. He's as a younger actor, he's done a lot of roles, but is finding young talent hard, and what was it about Oakes that drew to him as the role as Adam?
Finding young talent is very hard, as we all know. And Oakes, in a lot of ways, the movie had a lot of magic to it, but we knew that it was going to be hinged on this one one player, and if he didn't get it right, there was going to be no wand to take the rabbit out of the hat. There'd be no magic. So he was amazing in that way. I think what drew us to him was, the character had to at once be this rough and tough badass, but at the same time someone who was tender and vulnerable and human, because he's at that age where he can play both and experience both. And the story is very much about that. It's got a lot of action in it, but at the same time, it's very tender and contemplative. And, there are these human exchanges of dialogue. And Oakes dances that line perfectly. He's wonderful. And he connected with David right away, I think.
Yeah, David, you have the emotional connection with him right at the beginning of the movie. What was it like working?
Oh, what was it like working with Oakes?
With Oakes,
Yeah. I liked him very much. I liked him personally. I liked him as an actor very much as well. He was very, he asked a lot of questions and wanted to, like me. I mean, he wanted to get into Irving's world in a way that was right. And as a younger person, I think that's even tougher because it wasn't quite a realistic movie in that sense. So a younger person really has a long way to go to understanding the tone and the kind of mythological implications and all that stuff. And I just really liked his work ethic and his I just liked him a lot. I mean, it's like an instrument. Like I like the Oakes instrument, whatever that was and whatever he is. I think he's a talented dude.
Yeah.
Question here. We'll get to as many as we can, but from Razorburn for David, what was it like working with Orlando Jones and the crew from Evolution? There are a lot of people bringing up Evolution in the chat, so I thought we'd go to one of those questions.
Love Orlando Jones. Still good friends with him. Talked to him 2 days ago, as a matter of fact. Hope to see him in the next week or so. I love Orlando. Sean William Scott, great guy. Loved working with him. Not really in touch with him anymore, but love that guy. Julianne Moore is a friend. Her husband Bart Freundlich is a good friend of mine. So I really enjoyed working with all those people. Yeah.
Josh L asks for Irving, was there a lesson you learned on your first film that you applied to this film?
Hey, that's a good question.
Yeah.
Patience. A lot of these dreams take a long time to give birth to, not only on the development side, but getting these films greenlit is really tough. And then you have the tendency when you have a green light to think that it's smooth sailing thereafter and it's a party, but you find that there are so many obstacles during production and so many frustrating, tedious delays in post-production that patience becomes I think the recurring theme of the whole thing. That I think that's the difference of getting it done or not. If you're impatient, the dream is not going to come true. That's my feeling so far.
Cool. And then let's see. Can you talk about, this is from Alan Horkins's question for Irving. Can you talk about the career move from composer to becoming a director?
It wasn't really done in that order, although I did play in bands a ton when I was in high school. But really the composer thing was born out of necessity with the films. I was a musician and grew up around musicians. And so when it came time to make the movies, it only felt natural to just score them. With Cheerleader, we had a lot of fun doing a lot of 80s style synth stuff. And with Adam the First, it was way more acoustic and orchestral, which was fun to do. But yeah, I never saw it as a composer turning into a director. I was always just maybe someone waiting for his chance to be the director he always wanted to be. But I got to play in bands until then. So.
Well, you and John Carpenter have something in common then,
Exactly.
right? Composer director is not very common.
Yeah.
Pilgrim Media for Two wants to ask David about his experiences on Californication.
What about my experiences?
Exactly. Anything, any anecdote you care to share?
Well, look, there's a photo right there. Can you
Yeah.
there? Isn't that a great shot? That's
Love
Hank
it.
getting out of the car, and it's so Hollywood because our grip here is reading a book, completely not impressed by what's going on, by the great acting that's going on in the car there, and you see the camera there. I don't do that to show off. It's just I can't turn my camera around. I'm trying.
Yeah.
So anyway, my experience, you know, it was fun to go to work every day and try to make people laugh. You know, that was kind of the mission, you know, that we were trying to do, and I had a lot of great accomplices to be able to do that. You know, Evan and Pam and Natasha McAlone and everyone was just, you know, so great. And Tom Kapanos, the creator, always bringing the funny. So, you know, it was a wonderful challenge each and every day. And, you know, I love making a comedy because it's you kind of want a quicker pace. And I loved all
that. From Rumble, Adelis24 asks, how does Mr. Duchovny cherish, or what does Mr. Duchovny cherish about the time he spent directing Robin Williams in House of D?
Well, you know, it's interesting. I was just looking at my New York Times today, and I saw there was a movie by Zelda Williams, which I hadn't known about. Lisa Frankenstein, I guess.
Yeah.
And I was looking through my email contacts, and I don't have her email anymore. And because I wanted to send her a congratulatory note, and I looked at the preview, and it looked cool and looked great. And you know, one of the memories I have of working on House of D is working with a father-daughter, working with Robin and Zelda was in the movie, and the great Anton Yelchin. So I have wonderful memories of all of them.
And let's see, there's so many here. Let's get right here from Ray Laka says, will Adam the First have a global release or somewhere on stream? We do have a global audience watching this live. A lot of people overseas. It's later in the evening for them, but global release for Adam the First.
It seems it will. The question is what the timeline is looking like, but there does seem to be some international footing, which we're excited about. So stay tuned.
All right, that's good to hear.
There's a Rumble chat question.
Okay, can you read it?
Yeah. From Caveat Ties for $2. How do you go about assembling an entire team for a production, like the little guys such as set builders and such? I believe that's
so that's for me. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's like that saying, you know, you can eat a Buick if you grind it into teaspoons. You just if you're seeing a movie as a mountain, you're never going to get over it. But if you break it into little bites, it's something that you can certainly overcome. And so, well, first off, they're not the little guys; they're huge guys. Those who built sets and are working in those departments. But I do know what you mean. You know, it's important to find a producer that really believes in what you're doing. And that from there you find production managers and line producers, and they're in touch with those networks. And I'd say if you're making an indie, and you're the creative type who's a great writer director, find someone who's logistically oriented and plugged into a lot of the independent crews. That's what they can bring to the table. They're usually, your first stop is finding a good line producer or production manager online, and from there it should flow.
And CD Stein 69 asks, statement and a question for David. Love all your work and the fact that you're just as good in any genre of films or shows. What was it like working in a rom-com with Carol O'Connor and Robert Loggia?
That's Return to Me they're referring to, and that was written and directed, written by Bonnie Hunt and Don Lake, and directed by Bonnie Hunt and I think Bonnie Hunt is such a talented writer director, and I hope she has more films in her. I've wanted more out of Bonnie forever. Working with Carol and Robert, I didn't work that much with them. Minnie Driver worked more. That was kind of that world over there. But I worked a little bit with them. I mean, it was fantastic. You know, I mean, they're just amazing actors. I don't know what else to say about it. It was an honor.
And question for Irving. So I don't know how long we have you for, so we're just going to keep throwing questions until you kick us out.
David's got real stuff going on.
Oh, he does. Okay.
I can hang.
Maybe one last question.
I think you got all day. I think you got Irving all day.
Okay, good. Well, maybe one last question for David.
Weekend retreat.
Yeah. One last question for David here. From 8 Ellis 24. Is there anything that you miss about your time filming in Vancouver?
Oh yeah. I mean, I love Vancouver. There was a misunderstanding towards the end of my stay there about a joke I made about the rain on a late night talk show that got bent out of proportion and made people think that I didn't like Vancouver, but I love Vancouver. I would live in Vancouver in a minute. I miss it often. Love that town, love that city, love that part of the world, love the people there. Can't say more good things about Vancouver than it's just not possible for me.
Well, David, thank you for being on the show. Irving, stick around. We have a couple more questions for you, but David, you got to leave. I wish we could have seen you. It's all good.
I know.
My apologies on the StreamYard.
And trust me. I am not my own screensaver. That's not. All right.
It's all good.
Guys.
All right. Take care, David. Have a great rest of your day.
Congrats.
Later.
Great speaking with you, David.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye. Thanks, Irving. Bye.
Okay. There we go. There we go. Okay. Sorry about that. Thank you, Irving, for sticking around for a couple more questions here. For Irving from 8 Ellis 24, whose idea was it to make the poster look vintage with additions of frayed edges and fold lines?
So we went back and forth on that. The movie in general is a movie that I didn't want to have a specific period tied to it. I wanted to hit home that these are some themes and questions and ideas that are timeless and always going to be tied to the human experience. And so in production design and art direction throughout the film, I was always hitting home the idea that we wanted to remove anything that made it too period specific. So there were some elements from the 50s, 60s, 70s, 90s today, and anything that could be common between all of those I let in, but anything that would tie too specifically to a specific period I tried to avoid. So things like street signs and brands were certainly out. And so I think we carried that through with the poster as well. We went for a timeless look. We want this to feel like the modern classic that we're aiming for.
And one last question before we let you go. You made this film with David Duchovny. How do you resist the temptation to ask him a million questions about the X-Files? How do you resist it? Look, we had him on the stream and everyone's asking.
There are a lot of X-Files questions.
A lot of X-Files questions. I didn't want to bombard him too much. Like already taking the time to talk to us is, it's a big get for us. But how do you resist? You directed a movie with him. How do you not sit there and like bombard him with questions about Californication and X-Files? Like, how do you resist that?
I think I have it easy because whenever we're hanging out, we're in the context of planning the movie and getting in the zone. And I know that if I ask anything that's outside of the world of story, I'm going to change up the vibe and the tone for everybody. And we're not going to get, we're not going to have an easy time capturing, the tone that we're going for. So I think that's what kept me from bringing up all the cool, fun stuff outside of the movie itself. Because I know the minute I go there, then no one feels like we're making a movie. We're just hanging out and having fun. And then we're out of the the specific world we're trying to build. So it's in these settings. I'm curious to hear more about that stuff. But on the set, I think it's too dangerous to bring up all that other stuff because you get thrown out of the context, and then everyone's acting weird. We don't know what film are we making.
And then Latino Slant sent one last thing. Latino Slant sends in 199 and says, okay, Ice or Clued Bruckman. He was talking about a magazine called Hell A.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Well, Polly,
what are these? First of all, appreciate the super chat, but I don't know what any of that means. Clyde Bruckman.
In fact, no one does.
No one does. Well, hey, we're going to end it there, but Irving, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today, for bringing David on. Tell us, is the film, it's coming to theaters, I believe, next week. Is that right?
Yeah. And then we'll find out about streaming thereafter. And I think we're going to begin with maybe select theaters and then permeate, to a wider release thereafter. So we'll stay tuned. I'm curious to find out myself.
Great. Well, have a great rest of your day. Great weekend. Congrats on the movie opening next week. Adam the First. Look for it. Irving, take care. Appreciate it.
Same. Thank you so much, guys. This was fun.
Thank you.
Later. Bye. It was great. It was awesome.
I think Glenn will just have to take a screenshot and put it over the
he was on camera for like a few minutes. He could have stayed on camera. It's all good. It's all good, man.
He called me bastard, so I'm kind of.
No, he seemed game. I just we couldn't make that. I don't know. I think that I hate Zoom. StreamYard is easier. It's literally one click and you're there.
Yeah, and you have control over it. Zoom zooms in on the person talking and it doesn't always get it right.
Yeah. So one more thing we're going to discuss. Do not leave the show right now. Something huge just happened before I can't. This is going to be a surprise to you, Alan.
Okay.
Because you don't know what we're about to do here. So, oh shoot. I was in the middle of creating a banner. Let's see.
Yes. Shucksy says, do not leave.
Do not leave.
Please clap.
Please clap.
Yeah. JBGB. I had 20 Californication questions. I had a bunch of California questions.
I mean, what can you do? What can you do? But it is what it is.
Yeah. And
I got something else for you.
Returned to me as well when it came out back in the 80s.
Yeah. Okay. This is funny. 200 Watt Studios for 2 says that was the most Mulder thing that could happen. Lol. Yeah. Like he couldn't get all I'm saying, physically just take the iPad and go like this.
I know.
All you got to do. Whatever. And Dr. Gonzo sends in a very generous $10 super chat and says, if this ship doesn't course correct soon, actors and actresses will have to go woke or go broke. Interesting you say that, Dr. Gonzo.
Yeah.
Because I was sent a link to a website where Amazon Studios, I will put the link in the description here, and this is their rules for inclusive storytelling called We Power. This is DEIA. It's diversity, equity, inclusion, accessibility. We power inclusive storytelling. And this is Amazon Studios' new rules. This is put together, and this is why it's of concern. Okay. This is why it's of concern. A friend of mine in the WGA, who is in the WGA, I sent this to my friend, and he's going to be on the show next week. We're actually going to get a WGA member that's going to be joining us next Wednesday to discuss all of this stuff that's coming out from people sharing things with Film Threat, their private stories, with the DEI standards being applied across the board to everything. But what's interesting about this is, here's some of the comments from my friend. We're having a discussion. This was sent to me, and I sent it to my friend, and then we had this whole chat. And he said he's reading through this Amazon MGM thing, it's insane Orwellian. And he said that if you look at the person who put these rules in place, they actually have no experience working in entertainment. He said, he basically commented, he actually looked up, he says, how do you make art that challenges people when everything is standardized and safe? I looked up the woman who runs this program. She's never worked one day in her life in the film business, and she was in the HR department at Caterpillar Trucks. This is real. Okay. I'm going to go through some of this, and we're just going to take a look at it.
By the way, how is her diversity programs doing at Caterpillar Trucks?
Yeah, exactly. Like, how do you even? So here we're going to look at, here's the policy, right? Inclusion policy. This stuff is long. We work to consistently delight all segments of our audience. We aim to do this in two ways. First, by seeking out stories that amplify the voices of characters across race, ethnicity, nationality, sexual orientation, age, religion, disability, including mental health, body size, gender identity, and gender expression. Second, by bringing these often underrepresented or misrepresented characters to life in an inclusive production environment. This is Jen Salke, the head of Amazon Studios. And this is a quote from
MGM. Let's throw MGM in there.
MGM, Amazon Studios and MGM. She says, with the establishment of our inclusion policy and inclusion playbook, Amazon Studios has committed itself to being a thought and action leader in the transformation of our industry. We know how much work there is to be done to improve representation both on camera and behind the scenes, and it starts at home with us. With clear directives and a commitment to accountability, these guides provide a path toward a more equitable future, both on and off camera, says the white lady. It goes on and on. Here are the topics. We're going to put the link. This is vast. Developing stories and characters, stereotyping, historical depictions, cultural authenticity. This is all under this banner. Hiring and production, casting, behind the camera, below the line roles, cultivate an inclusive environment. How do you be creative with so many rules being shoved down your throat? There's the policy. Here's the playbook. This is like a book. This is more than a book. And here is Latasha Gillespie, head of DEIA at Amazon Studios. This, my understanding is this is the woman, my friend looked her up. She worked at Caterpillar, you know, the equipment company.
Yes.
In HR.
Yeah. The diverse employment workforce over at Caterpillar.
What will this playbook do? Make inclusive decisions, know where to go for help, identify criteria, foster curiosity. How can you be creative in an environment where so many rules are being thrown out? You've got storytelling, which is here. You've got gender, sexuality, romance, and humor. Those
are genres.
Domestic roles, stereotype. This is your legislating how people can be, what types of characters, script-based descriptions and stereotypes, gendered or sexualized descriptions, personality traits. This is
yeah.
So I sent this to my friend who's going to be on the show next week, Jim Agnew. He has been on the show before. He's been paying attention to a lot of this stuff.
He was on with us during the strike.
Yeah, he talked about the strike with us. So he was my guy to get me the inside on what's going on with the strike. Look at this. Okay, this is basically for the screenwriters out there. Personality traits. The description of a character's personality or distinctive traits may lead to appearance-related stereotypes. Sometimes character descriptions are written in a way that draws upon stereotypes or tropes. This is particularly likely when writing women characters or individuals from underrepresented racial and ethnic groups. So there's a little bullet pointed list. Are you describing women's personalities in ways that would lead to assumptions about their sexuality? For example, are descriptions such as the girl next door used for characters? This is now being used to tell screenwriters how to write and what to write. Be sure that your character descriptions do not evoke stereotypes related to women of color. Avoid use of the terms exotic, feisty, sassy, and other words stereotypically used to refer to underrepresented women.
In other words, remove personality from your characters.
Those are personality traits. I don't know that those can be ascribed to any specific ethnicity, I guess, but
It can't be aggressive.
it is better to be specific, e.g., the lead is from Puerto Rico, loves to sing, and has a big group of friends.
Yeah.
What is this?
Not a stereotype at all.
Oh my God.
Oh.
For LGBTQ plus women, ensure that personality traits do not play to stereotypes, either about femininity, masculinity, or over sexualization. Descriptions of people with disabilities may focus on aspects related to disability rather than a range of characteristics. Make sure your characters with disabilities are well-rounded and defined by more than their disability. Oh my God.
Yeah.
This is
I want my disabled characters to be feisty, sassy.
Okay, domestic roles. This is okay, DEI, right? We want diversity. No, we want to tell you how to write your script.
Yeah.
This is not, while this website is public, this isn't easy to find. It's at ccdeia.com. ccdeia.com. And I'm going through this document is vast. I was going through it and I sent it to my friend who was saying, this is Orwellian nonsense. Domestic roles. Consider the description of caregiving and romantic relationships, whether they fall along stereotypical or traditional lines, e.g., heteronormative, women as subservient, men as protector provider, meaning don't do the stereotypes. For more information on the concept benevolent sexism, read here. Oh my God. I'm going to go back though.
Hollywood is not the dream.
Whole other website.
Hollywood is not the dream. This
is a whole other website. I will also show it's psychology.com. I researched what the hell is even that? I'll go back to this. Consider, okay, it says rescue storylines or those focusing on chivalry can be particularly problematic. You can't make Star Wars. You can't make Star Wars rescuing the princess. There goes all your Disney storylines. Consider which groups are erased from being shown on screen in caregiving positions. For example, LGBTQ plus community is rarely shown in parental roles or as relational partners, yet between 2 and 3.7 million. Okay, that's a range between 2 million or 3.7 million children.
No, it's between 2, as in 1, 2, and 3.7 million.
Yeah. Yet between 2 and 3.7 million U.S. children have one or more LGBTQ plus parent. Narratives that involve abuse, harassment, or sexual assault require deeper thought. When these topics are included in a storyline, have they been handled with sensitivity? Have survivors been consulted for their perspective and insights? Do storylines reflect myths or misconceptions about these topics? It is necessary to include these aspects in the story. Evaluate whether abuse, harassment, or assault are deployed in gratuitous ways or are handled sensitively to advance the story. Consider asking the following questions when writing about parents/caregiving roles. Are women from all backgrounds and experiences defined solely by their relationship to children? Are LGBTQ plus characters shown as parents? Are non-binary characters shown as parents? Are characters with disabilities shown as parents? Are men represented as inept when shown as parents of caregivers? Well, they're always shown that way. When elderly relatives requiring care are included in the story, who provides that care? Stereotypes and humor. Now you're losing me.
Okay.
Okay. Let's go back to some of the great filmmakers. Could Mel Brooks make a movie under this BS? I'm asking you.
Well, he did.
Well, no, I'm talking about before this became so prevalent. Stereotypes and humors. I'm just going to breeze through this.
Yeah.
If characters from underrepresented backgrounds or historically marginalized groups only appear in your story to deliver humorous lines or as a source of amusement, this is problematic. Ask, do these characters have any other depth or insight to do, or do they merely serve to deliver comedy? Yeah, sometimes.
Like in comedies, almost all characters exist to deliver comedy.
Yeah, if it's the latter, how can you add depth to the characterization? Or who else needs to weigh in to ensure the character is not one-dimensional? Review the script and story with members of the communities you are depicting. Okay, this is what they're asking for, the sensitivity read. Review the script and story with members of the communities you are depicting to ensure authenticity and limit hurtful humor. No, I will not. Ask more than one individual to review the script story. What audience members find amusing will differ from person to person. Your goal is to be certain that the jokes do not offend the communities featured in your story. This is okay. This is what. So when I sent this to my friend Jim, I had not read through it. I kind of breezed through it. He said this is Orwellian. They are dictating how to write a script. Here we go. Race and ethnicity. For Black characters, are they shown in connection to violence, either as perpetrators or victims, particularly gang violence?
Hey, skip to Asian. I want to see Asian.
Oh, wait. Are there Asian?
Okay.
Oh, here we go. Alan, why don't you?
Yeah, let's do this.
One?
I don't know.
Can you do it in an accent?
Okay. For Asian characters, are may show in a way that minimize their sexuality or desirability as a romantic partner. This could be fulfilling the stereotype of the geek, who is primarily interested in technology, math, and science. Are they depicted as predominantly foreign versus American? Consider expectations around Asian characters speaking with accents. Are women depicted as naive, vulnerable, or silent? In contrast to are they shown in a provocative light, Tiger Lady? Are they particularly those who are shown affiliated with foreign countries shown as dangerous, evil, or threatening to others? Well, who the hell wrote that?
You know what? I have no idea, but I want to get Paulie from Latino Slant to read the one on Hispanic Latinx characters. They're still using that term Latinx, even though the entire Hispanic community hates that term.
Oh man. I got murdered on on Midnight's Edge for Latinx.
This is insane. This is utterly crazy. I'm going to put
the death of creativity.
This is the death of creativity, this document. And these HR, now the HR department, they want to be screenwriters and they want to dictate what a screenwriter can and cannot write and how they should write. This is a bridge too far. And anyone that would make a film for Amazon or MGM Studios, if they're going to be forced to follow these rules, this is moronic.
Well, the problem is, I mean, what kind of stories are you going to tell from this? I mean, quite frankly, Lisa Frankenstein is definitely inching into this area, except for the fact that the entire cast is white, which I don't know how that got through. You know, how you are removing personality, you're removing anything of interest, you're removing anything that we can relate to by making your characters and your story as bland as hell.
This is a bridge too far. I'm sorry. It's unbelievable that it's this far. I cannot believe it.
Yeah, guess what? Crazy Rich Asians under this under these guidelines could never have been made, because it hits every single Asian stereotype possible.
Yeah, I mean, this is not like, it's not like it's someone found this and sent it to me. It's not like a website that you go to like amazonstudios.com/whatever. This is their inclusion playbook, programs and pathways, learn more, the future of entertainment, events and learning, discover events. Hey, you know what? Here you go. Voices, Asian and Pacific Islander. Film. This is,
thanks.
Who would want to make a Hollywood movie now if this is the way things are going to be? This is, first of all, this document is so long. We are gonna take a look at it. Here we go.
Oh, look at the diverse picture there.
This isn't very diverse, people, to be quite frank. Latino Film Institute collab. Hollywood this is the death of Hollywood and the death of creativity in Hollywood.
Hollywood is not the dream. I mean, look, Molly and Max, we just talked about how much we loved that movie. We gave it 9 out of 10. Can you imagine if they had forced Michael to change casting of his 2 leads because to go for more diverse? He chose people who understood those roles as he had written them and performed them perfectly.
Well, let's we're going to delve into this. I have only just looked at a little of this document. This is, if you were an up and coming screenwriter, had to read through all this, what are you going to write? Every thing that you do that could be storytelling that's risky is going to be questioned by someone who's never written a screenplay. The HR person forcing this used to work at the HR department at Caterpillar. They make construction vehicles. How have these people in Hollywood allowed this to happen? I say allowed because they are weak. This is the tip of the iceberg. We're going to stay on the story. We're going to do an article about this on the website. And then we're also going to delve in. Alan, I'll send you I didn't share this with Alan because I just got it. But we're going to stay on top of this because this is the death of creativity in Hollywood. DEI is the death of creativity in Hollywood. Let's go to your chat comments and questions here on this. 200 Watt Studio says the descriptions are actually racist.
They are racist.
Lol. Yeah. Oh, I like this. How much of a donation is required for Alan to read reviews with an Asian voice? Says more MAGA. Alan, I think you could, right?
Yeah. I mean, look, we have a trip to South by Southwest we're trying to fund.
Yeah. We'll see. Bezos throwing away more money, says Maynard Lloyd.
And that was the problem. These companies, Amazon, Google, whatever, they're too big to fail. And so they can throw money at stuff like this. And that's why Disney is starting to fail, because the money that's being thrown to this stuff is not there anymore. But Amazon, I guess, is the last bastion because they have a mega corporation behind it to fund these things.
Yeah. Sons and Shadows says, if you have any idea of doing something, get out and do it. And the very prestigious Dick Dickstein, it's just a money laundering scam. They funnel money through these grift cons through to some other NGO and take it back with a much lower tax bill. Interesting. Ray Laka, MCU writers don't need to know comic books, so Amazon writers don't need to know creativity. Fair. Bill S. Preston, Esquire. All of the Asian engineers I've worked with are promoting stereotypes. They need to become improv actors and film reviewers.
Well, this one did.
Let's see. MK Solid 82 for 5 says, this is a nightmare for art. Nostalgia from better decades will only last so long. Our culture will continue to decay because of this. Patrick Lemire says, I work with a lot of HR departments, and when they say diverse, they really mean send more AA, not Asians, Indians, Latinos, white gay men. Let's see. Lod 689. They just work with self-inserts now since they can't write. Fear the Turtle 21. I'm all for respecting everybody. Same. I am for respecting everybody and not putting others down, but Christ on a stick. The entertainment world has lost its mind. If you have to say how inclusive you are, you're probably not inclusive. Maybe movies and TV shows should come with a DEI warning label. Yeah. At how this is, I mean, what can you say?
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, I like to see diverse casts in things. Sorry, I do. I like to see Asians in things mostly.
That's fine.
But the thing is now you're applying rules to that, to the point where, well, why would you want to do it in the first place?
Hella is a Californication reference, as Pilgrim Media. Why didn't Paulie just say that? I don't like these questions that are mystery questions.
Yeah.
If you're going to ask questions of our guests, like, can you just be specific and whatever? You know, everyone's pretty respectful in our chats.
Yeah.
Which
Plus, I didn't
appreciate.
watch Californication for the details.
Thanks, Pilgrim. From Rumble, Galaxy Red, does this mean no more good shows like Reacher, Jack Ryan, and Terminal List? Also, does this Warhammer might be DOA? Does this mean possibly?
Mhm.
If Henry Cavill is going to be put under these rules, I guarantee Warhammer is going to be diverse and all that and whatever. I don't know.
Well, let's be real. Amazon needs a few big hits to fund all this crap.
This is HR people
Mhm.
trying to enforce their rules on creatives. This is just, to me, god awful. A few more chat comments here, and I know, Alan, we got to wrap it up for today. Yeah, I mean, it's Davina Duckworth. This is where creativity goes to die. Shrek PMC. My niece was involved in DEI at some consulting firm. She hated it.
Mhm.
It's a grift. Jericho Leon. I have a video to share in Discord that captures this dystopian DEI reality we're headed to. Hey, Jericho, share it in Discord. Alan, could you grab it? And maybe we'll check it out. Maybe we can show this video next week. Could you put it in our planning sheet? Thank you, Jericho. And also a little plug for our members now. We're doing more and more with our members. So please consider joining the Film Threat channel as a member. We post exclusive videos and interviews you won't get on the main channel. You get access to our Discord as a member where you can continue the conversation. And
who knows, we may do another Jackbox stream tomorrow.
And and we do like members only streams just for fun. And Jericho, please, maybe we can show the video next week.
Yeah, post it in the Film Threat episodes forum or whatever they call it.
Yeah, but that's gonna wrap it up for us today. There's just too much to go into with that document. I want to, Alan, I usually share everything with Alan before we do the show. This just came in last minute, and I decided we should add it because I think people are sick of it.
Mhm.
I think people are sick of this, and it needs to be discussed.
Well, I mean, I think the box office is sick of it. You know,
Look
I think the subscriber numbers are sick of it.
Yes. Yeah.
It's just no one will admit to the fact that DEI is not working. Go woke or go broke is an actual truth statement.
Look, I have a lot of good advice. Stop obsessing about race, you stupid, midget-minded morons. I got to put that out on social media.
Yeah.
That
I mean,
would
race
be-
and culture should be celebrated. It shouldn't be a tool for victimization.
Or just like, all the guidelines and rules, whatever. Get over it. One last thing before we go, I want to share. Obviously, I'm a huge sports fan. The Super Bowl is this weekend. I'll be watching it. I don't know. Maybe should we do a Super Bowl watch party? Just like I could just be like on my couch, like watching it.
Yeah. No, I just promised my dad I'd watch it at his house.
So
we're not doing a live stream. And I'll be barely watching it. I've got family over. I gotta spend time with
I want to actually watch it. So like, could I go to a Super Bowl party? Yes. I actually just want to actually watch it and laugh and have a good time. So maybe we'll see.
Oh,
but
maybe
here,
during the Taylor Swift halftime show.
Well, like we share elements of our collection. Alan and I both collect a lot of stuff. And I have here a trading card. Maybe you recognize this quarterback, number 19 from the New York Jets. That's right. Flash Gordon, quarterback, New York Jets. He was number 19. There you go. There's the picture. Here's all of Flash Gordon's stats. Check that out. Pretty cool, right? So, this was given to me as a gift, and I love it. So awesome. Thank you, Aaron Sparrow, for that. I appreciate it. All right. That's wrapping it up for us tonight. Have a great weekend, everyone. Enjoy the commercials that are going to be playing on the Super Bowl. Next Wednesday, we're back with a member of the WGA to take a look at all of this stuff and discuss it. We're also going to talk about the sensitivity read. We're going to discuss that as well. And there you go. And just thank you for tuning in. And We'll see you next Wednesday. And there you go. Alan.
Let's get out of here.